The walls creak in the old ruins. Spiders crawling, gnawing, biting at your every step. But those are not your main goal. At a distance you hear a roar. A lion? No, much more dangerous. Your companions advise you of healing and preparing for battle. As you start your sprint, you're greeted with a rattle. A chimera lunges at you. You take the blow on your shield, while one of your companions jumps and attaches themselves to the tail of the beast. You grab the beast's attention. Your sorcerer is at the corner, conjuring a spell. You take another blow to the shield, but you are exhausted. You know you cannot take another blow like that. Another companion is letting volleys of arrows fly on the beast, but it seems unfazed. Finally, the beast's tail is cut off and it rolls on its back in the pain. The sorcerer has completed his spell and unleashes a powerful attack. The chimera roars in pain and at last it gives its last breath. The beast is dead. Your crew is exhausted. Your journey is not over. This is Dragon's Dogma. I am your host, Size Matters. Welcome to the Wiki Show. Before we get started, I want to announce that in this episode I will be covering the base game only. A follow-up video of the DLC will be posted at a later time. Dragon's Dogma is a single-player open-world RPG third-person action-oriented game that incorporates online functionality in a single-player campaign. It follows the story of the Arisen, an individual whose heart was stolen by the dragon and his quest to retrieve it. The game was developed and published by Capcom, built upon the in-house engine MT Framework. This is an original IP from Capcom. It was released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 on May 22, 2012, and the subsequent expansion named Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen was released on April 23, 2013, later to be released on PC with both components on January 15, 2016. Then, once more released for the PS4 and Xbox One on October 3, 2017 as part of its 5th year anniversary. The game was directed by Hideki Itsuno, who previously directed Devil May Cry 2, 3, and 4. Produced by Hiroyuki Kobayashi, who worked on Resident Evil 4, Killer 7, and Breath of Fire, as well as other staff members of Capcom who previously worked on all formerly mentioned games. World designed by Yoichiro Ikeda, music composed by Tadayoshi Makino, as well as other members. Writers include Bingo Morihashi and Harao Murata. The game is set in the land of Grances. You are a villager who on a sudden afternoon gets attacked at your hometown of Casardis by the great terror of the land, the dragon. After a futile fight, the dragon takes your heart and bestows you as the chosen one, the Arisen. After you get yourself together, you depart onto the capital of the land, the city of Grand Soren, on a quest to retrieve your heart. Along the way, you come to meet your companions of this adventure, named Pawns. Warning: I will be spoiling the story. Quick summary of the main plot point ahead. After some quest, meeting the Duke of the Land, and some more quest, you meet the dragon. The dragon gives you a choice. He shall give you the land and the power of the Duke if you decide not to confront the beast. If you choose to battle, after defeating the dragon, the land of Grand Soren comes to a disastrous fate. The land was being held by the pact the dragon had with the Duke, the same one given to you as the Arisen. You go back to the capital only to be banished by the Duke for having conspired with the dragon to take the power from him. You dive into the abyss and find dozens of pawns who have been lost in the same path as your faith. You are granted a gate for you and your personal pawn to meet with the almighty power of the land. You are taken to a dimension above others. As you are put into trials to test the strength of your will, you are then confronted by the Maker. The Maker enlightens you by telling you the truth. The land is ran by him. But the Maker was once a mere mortal, an Arisen just like yourself. After confronting the dragon, the mortal needs to prove their will is stronger than anything in the land, even stronger than the hand of the Maker. If you decide to confront the Maker, you will prove your will to the Almighty Being, and you can know the truth. Or, you can decide to live a life of lies, back to the old Grances, a puppet of the Maker's will. If you defeat the Maker, you take his place as the god of the land. You, now ruling the land, can control the fate of the world. But what purpose do you have living a life of all power? Here is where your choice makes or breaks. You can live a life of a god, or you could pull out your God's bane sword gifted to you and use it to pierce your own heart and ultimately killing yourself, killing God. The story moves on where you free fall into the world and your pawn tries to rescue you. Your pawn has never had a will of their own because they are only there to serve you. Your sacrifice gives your pawn a heart and bestows upon them their own will, giving the pawn their freedom and having them take your place upon the land of Grances as another mortal soon to be chosen as the Arisen, forever making the circle of destiny as it is. The gameplay is heavy action-oriented in its combat, drawing inspiration from Itsuno's previous works. The game allows you to cling onto foes and scale them to defeat them. The game draws inspiration in difficulty from Demon Souls. The character creation has been compared to Dragon Age Origins in terms of its complexity. Combat has small and heavy attacks with variations in delivery, as well as movesets of up to 6 per build, with one exception. There is a stamina mechanic built into the movesets, into running, and into climbing. There are 9 vocations to choose from, Fighter, Strider, and Mage being the base vocations. You can mix any one of these vocations to take another class. Mage with Strider to make Magic Archer, or Fighter with Fighter to make a Warrior. Weapons and abilities can be upgraded, and tactical play is highly encouraged. You also get to create your personal pawn to travel the land with you. The pawn will forever be with you, and they will help you with advice on your way. The pawn can be set to one of 6 vocations. Your adventure can be of a 4-person party. You can recruit 2 other pawns from people online or in the local world. Dragon's Dogma has 2 online components. The first being, if you choose to play online, the game uploads a user-created pawn into a shared pool where other Arisen can hire your pawn for their adventure. The second online functionality is the Battle with the UR Dragon, a feature called Asynchronous Online function by Capcom. It works by fighting a boss that shares its health throughout multiple user gameplay sessions. Development of Dragon's Dogma can be traced back to 2008. Capcom wanted a new million-selling IP. The proposal became Dragon's Dogma to incorporate the pawn system developed in the year 2000. The game was developed under the working title of BBS RPG to capture the interactivity of bulletin board systems. With new programming features, the game included a well-detailed character editor. The initial map design was about twice the size of the final product, with separate regions corresponding to different levels of experience, having separate and discrete parallel worlds exist for each player. Unfortunately, the final product was reduced in scope, where the original had the entire Grances Island on an island named Dragon Isle and the game's world's moon. The game was created to take the best from the Eastern RPGs, like Dragon's Quest, and the best from the Western RPGs, like Fable and Elder Scrolls. Itsuno was quoted, "I have seen a great deal of open-world action RPGs over the years, but there's never been one that really puts everything together in the action parts. We figured that if there hasn't been a game made by people who understand how action works, then we ought to do it ourselves. We wanted a game where the player is thrown into the world and needs to figure out how to stay alive via nothing but his own controller." The game was ported to PC, which supports above 60 frames per second gameplay and 4K resolution, as well as some minimum mod support. The game was later re-released on PS4 and Xbox One at a 1080p resolution and higher frame rate. The game received an average score of 75 out of 100 from Metacritic, having Game Informer being one of the higher rating scores, quoting, "I left the game feeling that I made my mark on Grances the way I chose to, instead of being escorted from plot point to plot point. When you're talking about an open world game, I can't think of a higher praise." And the lowest score coming from Play UK quoted, "A clunky, confused mess of a game that simply doesn't know what it wants to be. There's comfort in how compulsive it could be, but the factor doesn't magically turn Dragon's Dogma into anything other than a flawed, dull, and unfair experience." The game sold more than 330,000 copies in its opening week in Japan. The PC version sold 265,000 copies in the first month of release, making it the fastest selling Capcom game on PC at the time of its release. Dragon's Dogma has sold a total of approximately 3 million units combined between all 5 platforms. At Capcom's Captivate event of 2011, director Itsuno said that Dragon's Dogma is a game he had been dreaming about making since his school days. He was able to realize the dreams due to modern technology and had been directing a staff of around 150 people at Capcom Japan for the previous 2 years of development time. This concludes the story of Dragon's Dogma, a game that was called a combination of Elder Scrolls, Devil May Cry, Dark Souls, and Shadow of Colossus, where a dragon is no small feat to defeat and fear strikes the heart in many dungeons. The game did receive an expansion called Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, which was thereafter always bundled with the base game. A sequel, named Dragon's Dogma Online, has been released. Dragon's Dogma Online takes place as a free-to-play MMO for the PS3, PS4, and PC exclusively for the Japanese region.